You do not have to walk on eggshells for your whole life. You do not have to walk on eggshells in your relationships. You don't have to constantly apologize. You don't have to constantly censor yourself. Right? The right man who is mature enough to understand you and appreciate you, right, will dig all of these things and will be even more into you and more attracted to you because you are so authentically you. Hey, this is Evan Marc, Katz, dating coach for smart, strong, successful women, your personal trainer for love. Welcome back to the Love You podcast. Excited about today's topic, how you could be your most authentic in dating. You're gonna wanna listen to this one. If you enjoy the Love You podcast, please subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, click on the bell, do the whole thing. Give us a positive review or 5 stars wherever you are. It means a lot. It makes a difference. It helps us be seen by more people. With that out of the way, happy almost Valentine's Day. I'm not a big Valentine's Day person. I am a dating and relationship coach. I am happily married. I always acknowledge Valentine's Day with a card and a gift and or dinner. I still think it's a Hallmark holiday. I still don't think single people should feel bad if you're single on Valentine's Day, no more than someone who doesn't have a living father should feel bad on Father's Day. It's just a day. So I want to acknowledge Valentine's Day for all you lovers out there and everybody else. Just a day. Don't worry too much about it. The reason I'm doing today's episode was because I listen to podcasts too. I don't just, I don't just make podcasts. I listen to them. I have a steady diet of comedy and politics, 2 areas of interest to me. And I was listening to Smartless a few weeks back, and they had an episode with Selena Gomez. Now, I am a man of a certain age. I don't know how Selena Gomez became one of the most famous people in the world, 40 million Instagram followers or something like that. Selena Gomez is a really big deal for people who presumably are a little bit younger than I am. And she's an actress and she's a singer and she's had noted mental health issues. She was talking with, Will and Jason and Sean on Smartless, where they interview celebrities, and was very, very kind about it, about some of her struggles. And the very end of this podcast, if you go to Smartless and go check out the Selena Gomez episode, if you're not into it, you could fast forward to the end because that's where the really interesting stuff started to happen. They started to talk about authenticity, and authenticity is a buzzword. The internet's a vast place. A lot of words are used so often that they almost lose their original meaning. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but authenticity, like vulnerability, these are really key words, but they're repeated so often that they seem to get diluted. On this podcast, they started to talk about authenticity and how hard it is as a celebrity to be authentic because you're in the public eye, because everything you do could be dissected or measured or criticized, or someone's not going to like it, right? Or it could cost you your job or your public image. I mean, imagine being under that level of scrutiny all the time, to the point where you have to watch what you say, you have to watch what you wear. That is exhausting. And it's not terribly surprising that a lot of these good-looking, rich, famous people struggle with authenticity, not to mention self-esteem, right? Despite the fact that they are in the 1% of 1% of 1% of most privileged people in the world. And listening to all these folks who are, it's the sort of celebrities, they're just like us type thing. They're just regular people who happen to have extraordinary jobs. And I really felt bad for them because there was no liberation in micromanaging yourself all the time. And all I could think about when they were sharing this is what an interesting comparison this was to my clients, women, when it comes to dating. Always in your head, worrying about what you say, worrying about how you look, playing a role, wanting to be liked, hoping you're approved of. This, in Love You terminology, is what it's like to be the intern as opposed to the CEO. The intern doesn't know they can get a paid job, much less a good paid job. So they will put up with any amount of BS in order to stay employed. because they don't know that they can do better. They don't know if they deserve better. They don't know what's normal in terms of how they're treated. And so you're always on the receiving end, hoping for approval. And if you've ever bent over backwards to try to please a man, if you've ever walked on eggshells because you were afraid he was going to criticize you, if you have ever considered plastic surgery because you're afraid that you don't look good enough for men, this should resonate with you in some way, right? The striving for authenticity. And so there's a tension here between being authentic, this is who I am, accept all of me, which again in theory is good, and then there's accept all my bad behavior. We should all be aware that we can do better. But saying don't be so self-conscious about your looks doesn't mean let yourself go. And saying if you don't love me at my worst, you sure don't get me at my best, well, that means that you could theoretically be a raving bitch and a guy would never have a right to complain. So we're really talking about a more nuanced position than that. You can be self-aware without having to be so in your head about how you come across all the time that you're locked up by fear that doing the wrong thing, any one misstep could derail you in Hollywood, your career, and here, your relationship. Relationships have to be safer than that. There's a love you saying, sorry to quote myself, it's just what I do. You can't do the wrong thing with the right guy. That's where you have to land. You can't do the wrong thing with the right guy, because if you are always micromanaging everything in your head, how could you ever relax? How could you ever let down your guard? It's liberating to not care. And again, there's a difference between not care. I don't care what anybody thinks. And again, it's a license to be a terrible person. And just the idea that, hey, if someone doesn't like me, that's unfortunate, but that's okay. Because I like me. I like who I am. I like how I show up in the world. I'm kind to people. I'm moral. I'm ethical. I'm relatively decent to look at. There are worse people. That integration of public and private, I find to be almost a superpower, if it's a superpower that you could acquire. And by the way, I bet you know people who are like that, people who are the same everywhere. It's about the highest compliment I could give someone, right? Not that they don't give two fucks, but rather they seem fairly comfortable in their skin, whatever that means. Because we all buy into that comfort in their skin. We respond to confidence, not arrogance, but we respond to confidence, right? If there's a woman who's heavy, who's wearing spandex, God bless you. You're sexier than someone who is afraid to take off her clothes in the bedroom with a lover. Go. Confidence is sexy. And confidence and authenticity often kind of go together. Realizing that you could be the same with your friends, with your family, with your employees, and with your life partner. Because if you have to pretend with your life partner, what kind of life is that really? If you're a good person, and I honestly believe most people are good people. You might not feel that way based on your experiences with men, but I'm fundamentally an optimist. I think people are hurt, and I think people have blind spots, and I think people are selfish, and I think that cuts across gender and sex lines. But if you're a good person listening to this right now, you do not have to walk on eggshells for your whole life. You do not have to walk on eggshells in your relationships. You don't have to constantly apologize. You don't have to constantly censor yourself, right? The right man who is mature enough to understand you and appreciate you, right, will dig all of these things and will be even more into you and more attracted to you because you are so authentically you. How do I know that? Think about the people that you respond to the most. Right? The people who really just like themselves. And it shows everywhere they go. Not because they're jerks, quite the opposite. They really like themselves, so they're kind to themselves and they're kind to others. They exude a kind of joy and comfort in their own skin. When you see it, it makes you want more of it. And when you've seen it, it should be something that becomes more attainable. It just has to do with shedding some of that skin, those layers that you've built up over the years. Parents criticizing you, making you feel bad about yourself, normalizing that behavior with men in your life, constantly negative voice in your head, right? go read The Untethered Soul or by Michael Singer, or Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but like, these are books about you having this voice in your head that's always cutting you down, and how that voice is really your worst enemy. I just want to implore you to be the best version of you, because if Selena Gomez could go into inpatient mental care, I think she counted like 4 times, because she, with everything going for her, didn't feel comfortable enough to be herself in the public eye, well, that is a really sad sign. That's a sad sign that she doesn't have someone whispering in her ear how lovely she is and how valuable she is. And so if that's all this podcast is to you, is someone whispering in your ear, telling you you're a good person, you're a beautiful person, you have everything going for you, all you have to do is believe it and act like it instead of worrying about the approval of others, then that should be your only takeaway message for today. Some people aren't going to love you. Some people aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to be attracted to you. That's all right. No one has a 100% success rate. I sure don't. But I don't lose any sleep about it, because my parents gave me a lot of self-esteem when I was a kid. My wife loves me unconditionally. I have good friends who I've kept for many, many years, right? And so because I'm secure, people could say negative things about me on the internet, and it doesn't really cause me to lose any sleep. That is the gift that I wish for you, that you don't give any one guy veto power to live rent-free in your head, making you feel bad about you, especially if he's the guy who's supposed to love you the most. Fuck that guy. Love yourself. Trust yourself. Be yourself. That's all you can be. My name is Marc Katz. This is the Love You Podcast. Thank you for listening. If you are serious about love and you want to take this to the next level, if you want me whispering in your ear every week, telling you how special you are so that you could raise your standards for what you come to expect from men, go to evanmarckatz.com/apply, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye-bye.